Hello BookTube, it's Janet, and today I'm going to tell you what I've been reading recently. It is a while back now, but I did actually take part in the Swapathon that ran, I think, towards the tail end of the summer, and one of the challenges was to pick a book in an unusual way. So I'll put a little clip in of how I did that. What I've decided to do is, while it's a week-long readathon, and I think there are 6 challenges, there's no way I can read 6 novels in a week, particularly when I'm at work. So I thought, well, I'll put a graphic novel in there. So I thought my novel way of getting a different way of selecting what I read in the graphic novel is I've picked 3 first volumes of graphic novel series that I've yet to start. I've put them on the floor. I've got Paper Girls Volume 1, Adventure Time Volume 1 and Gotham Academy Volume 1. And I'm going to go and find my cat Nigel. Nigel is actually a female, and I'm going to see which one she picks out for me. So this may not work, but let's see. Oh, I couldn't find Nigel, but I have found Sheldon. Here he is. So I'm just going to put him down and we'll see where he goes. So he's on them now. Oh, well, he's very definitely. That was very decisive, boy. He has sat on Adventure Time. So that is the one that I will read for my swap on. Boy, you are so... Boy, do you want to look at the camera, boy? Shell? Say hello, boy. Sheldon. Okay, he's refusing to look at the camera. He seems to be a little bit camera shy. Let's go around the other side to see... Oh no, there he is. Hello, boy. So you have chosen Adventure Time. Thank you, my darling. So I'll let you know how I get on with that one. And so, as you can see, my cat Sheldon chose Adventure Time for me, the graphic novel to read, which I did read, and I've already forgotten about it. I can't say that I enjoyed this at all. It just seemed very silly and it wasn't for me. I also read My Plain Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodie Ashton and Jodie Meadows. And this is the second book that these 3 authors have written together, and they call themselves My Lady Janies. This is the second one, and the first one I think was My Lady Jane, I can't remember now, and it was a retelling of the Lady Jane Grey story, but completely went off at a tangent. Absolutely loved it and read it last year. This edition I've got is one of my Owl Crate exclusive editions, and it is actually signed by all 3 authors, which is great. It does have deckled edges, which I'm not a lover of. This one is a retelling of Jane Eyre, and oh my goodness, I loved this so much. Jane Eyre has the ability to see ghosts, and it follows her adventures pretty much similar to the book, but it's absolutely hilarious. It's really funny. It's got some fantastic characters. Jane is really kind of feisty, but what I love about this as well is that Charlotte Bronte herself is a character in the book, and she is feisty, she's fabulous, she's enthusiastic, she wants to get things done, she's a woman who's ahead of her time, and I think this was just a fantastic 5-star read, and I believe they are going to write another one, and I think that's about Calamity Jane, and I will definitely be first in the queue to get that one. I absolutely love the stuff that these 3 ladies put together. Can't recommend it highly enough. The next book I read on audiobook was Calypso by David Sedaris. If you've never heard of David Sedaris, he's an American who has lived all over the world, but he's been living in the UK for quite a while now, and he writes humorous essays and short stories which he performs all over the world, and then occasionally you get them collected together into a book. I always listen to David Sedaris' books on audiobook because he reads them himself, and you get some that are read out in a studio and some that he does that are taken from his live tours. And Calypso did not let me down. He talks a lot about his family and about growing up in North Carolina and about being a gay man, and they are really, really funny at times. Sometimes they're quite bittersweet. I felt this one was a little bit more darker than his other ones. There was a few more sort of hard-hitting stories in it, but he always makes me cry with laughter. I thoroughly recommend David Sedaris if you just want to listen to a brilliant audiobook. Any of the books that he's done, because I have read them all now, will not let you down. They're absolutely brilliant, and yeah, they will have you crying with laughter just at the absurdities of life. Another book I read recently, or I should say DNF'd recently, was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I've heard so many things about it, and I have actually got the beautiful Penguin cloth bound copy up on my bookshelves, but I was listening to it on audiobook, and I just couldn't get on with it. I found it too wordy, very ploddy, not much going on, and it just wasn't for me. Maybe a different day, different time, I would pursue it and I would enjoy it, but at this particular time it just wasn't doing it for me, so I did DNF that one. The next one I listened to was a reread for me, and that was Anne of Green Gables, and this was read by Rachel McAdams. And the reason I did this was because I'd read Bookworm by Lucy Mangan recently, and it's where she writes about all the books that she read as a child and how they made her feel, and how those books that you read as children stay with you for the rest of your life. And I'd read all the Anne books a long time ago, and I remember the first two being my absolute favourites. I can't say that I was that keen on the other four. So I'd seen this new edition come out on Audible, read by Rachel McAdams, and I was transported back to Prince Edward Island. It didn't lose any of its magic this time around. I absolutely recommend Rachel McAdams' audiobook version of it. It is just lovely. It follows the story of Anne Shirley, Anne with an E, who is an orphan who is taken in by Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert. They were expecting a boy, but they're taking Anne, and Anne's a talker and a reader, and she gets into all kinds of scrapes, and it's absolutely hilarious. I devoured it. It was one of those books that it was a total 5-star. It made my commute to and from work an absolute joy. And the final book I've got to tell you about is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. And I had this one on audiobook as well. I'm doing a lot of audiobooks now because I do have much longer commute to work. And this is a fun adventure romp on the Grand Tour that the Gentlemen of Wealth did back in, I think it was like the 17th and 18th centuries. It follows Monty, who's the main character, who's gay, and obviously it's in a time where it's really just not acceptable to be so. He's brutalised by his father, so he's got a few issues. He goes a little bit off the rails. He goes off on his Grand Tour, and then they end up finding a codex which has some alchemy device inside it which they think could potentially raise the dead, cure all, and then as the story unfolds you realise that Monty's got kind of a reason to want this. It was okay. I had higher expectations of it. I found it a little bit silly in parts. Can't say that I really like the characters too much. I did like Monty's sister the best, and I do believe the next book she's the main protagonist in it, but I'm not going to be compelled to read that in any kind of hurry. It was alright, it was a romp, it was a quick read. I know some people have absolutely loved it, and so yeah, it was worth a read, but it was only a 3-star. So that's what I've been reading recently. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you think of them. Let me know if you completely disagree with me and what I think of some of the books that I've read recently. I will see you all soon, BookTube. Keep reading. Bye!